What's up, St. Philip family? In 1543, Nicholas Copernicus had an incredible idea. He proposed that the center of the universe was the sun and not the earth. And everyone was like, "You're crazy, man. You are crazy. What a crazy idea that the sun is the center." They're like, "No way. The sun revolves around us. We don't revolve around the sun." And as we know now, he was right. It's amazing that it's been less than 500 years that we actually believe that, right? Crazy. But this idea, this shift of me being the center of the universe to something else being the center of the universe, this is the goal of parenting. That when your child is born, the child is perfectly selfish. Perfectly selfish. This child is the center of the universe. It literally only knows its need. I'm hungry, I'm uncomfortable, I'm sleepy, I need you. Please come and come ASAP because I am the center. And so the whole world revolves around this child, but then as you parent the child, as the child grows, it's trying to teach the child that, hey, I know it feels like you're the center of the universe, but you're actually not. There are other people, and the world does not revolve around you, actually. And if you live that way, you're going to be miserable. And that's why, right? That's why parents do that. Parents discipline their children. They teach them. They try to instruct them. They try to pull them out of themselves so that they're not miserable. Because when we live for ourselves, when I'm the center of the universe, when I give in to selfishness, it makes me miserable. And it makes everyone around me miserable, and no one wants their child to be miserable, and no one wants their child to be the one that makes everyone else miserable. So you try your best. That's the goal. The goal is to say, I'm not the center of the universe, and to move from that shift to something else other than myself is the center. And we don't need Jesus to tell us that. That is anyone who studies human nature, anyone who is going to take a real look at themselves, is that, actually, when I live for myself, when I give in to selfishness, when I say it's about me, when I treat myself, when I do these different things to make me the center, I'm comforted for like a little while. For a little while, I have some happiness. Maybe I want to shirk off my responsibilities, the burden of my obligations, and it's just so much. They're so demanding, my family, my marriage, my all these different challenges that I'm facing. So I'm going to leave it for a little while, and there's some serenity because it's like, the pressure's over, I have peace. But then the restlessness sits back in, and it's never enough. I'm never satisfied. I just want more and more and more. Why? Because I'm not made for that. I am not the center of the universe. As much as I want to be, and as much as I try to be, and as much as I try to make that the happiness of my life, I just keep wanting more and more and more, and I'm more and more unhappy, I'm more and more miserable. You get the point. I'm not the center of the universe. And this is what Jesus is actually telling us. He says, in the gospel, he says, remain in my love. Remain in my love. As the Father loves me, so I love you fully, completely. I love you so much that I have become now the new center of your life. I radically changed you in baptism. I brought you into my life and my love. And now your whole universe has a new orbit. Remain in my love. And how do I remain in his love? Keep my commandments. Keep my commandments, and you will remain in my love. Keep my commandments. Thinking about it as a parent, when we make commandments, when we discipline our children, when we have rules in the house, it's not to oppress them. It's not to burden them. It's to set them free. The reason we have rules is so that we can be set free, so that we can no longer live for ourselves, but to live for others, so that we can free ourselves of ourselves. That's why we give these rules, so that we can be free to love, free to be the fullness that we're called to be. So when Jesus says, keep my commandments, he's not just trying to oppress us or, say, you keep my commandments or else. No, he's saying, I want you to remain in my love. I want you to keep these commandments so that you can remain in my love. And then he says, why? So that my joy may be in you and your joy might be complete. He asks us to remain in his love because only in his love, only when he is the center of the universe, only when he is the center can we actually have joy and the completion of joy, so that my joy might be in you and your joy might be complete. And Jesus, he not only tells us this and begs us of this because he wants us to be free and joyful and living not for ourselves but for others because of the way we were created. I didn't create the universe. I didn't make the order. God did. And unless that order is being kept, I'm restless and miserable. I can't do anything about it. So Jesus is like, please live in the order that I made you for, and you'll have joy, you'll have peace, you'll have all these wonderful things. That's why. And even he says, and you're my friend. You're not a slave. You're my friend. I'm trying to help you. And so if we live in this way, removing the center of our life as ourselves and placing God in the center, we have joy and we have peace. And Jesus is like, I'm not just going to tell you to do this. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Jesus, who when he became man and he was obedient even unto death, that he was so willing to be obedient, so obedient to the Father, that he even allowed himself to die rather than make himself the center of his life. Because he knew that this was the way. He knew that he was made for not for himself, but for others. And this is why he says, this is my body given up for you. This is my blood poured out for you. This is who you are. And when you live your life like this, you have the completion of joy. There's suffering, yes. There's difficulty. There's a denial of myself that hurts for a little while, but there's a joy that's so much further beyond that. And I think that you've experienced that. Think about the times that you have really struggled to love someone. Maybe it was a child, it was a spouse, it was a difficult moment with a friendship or whatever, and you really didn't want to choose that person, or you felt very inconvenienced, or you were feeling the feelings of selfishness, but you denied yourself and you continued to choose in love. You continued to choose even though you weren't receiving love in return. It wasn't being reciprocated, but you chose that love, and yeah, it hurt for a moment. It felt like the cross, but there's a joy because you realize, you know what, this is freedom, and this is who I'm made to be, and I did a good job. So there's a joy with that. And you know what Jesus says? He says, I command you to love one another, but if you place Jesus at the center of your life, if Jesus is at the center of my life, and I realize that the world does not revolve around me, then I'm automatically going to love others because I realize that I was not created for myself. And we see this mystery lived out in all the saints. Every single saint. Look at their lives. Pick your favorite. Every single saint at some point in their life had the big epiphany where they realized, whoa, I am not the center of my life. Whoa, I am not the center of the universe. And in fact, Jesus Christ is the center. This God who is not just this God, but he is the God who loves me, who dies for me, and who brings me to life. He is the center of my life. And because I now know him and because I know his love for me and what he's done for me, then I'm like, okay, what can I do for you, Lord? How can my life glorify you, Lord? I am not the center of my universe. In fact, when I was living for myself, it just led to my misery. And now I know that there's a new center of my life, and it's freedom and it's joy, and I want more of it. We see this in the saints. And so they realize the center of their life is God, and then they glorify him with their life, and that's why they give their life for others. And as I was preparing for this, there's a saint that was really strongly on my heart to share with you, and it's St. Maximilian Kolbe. St. Maximilian Kolbe, an amazing saint. During the Second World War, he was sending out so much writing and literature against communism, proclaiming the goodness of God, proclaiming the amazing power of the Blessed Mother, so much to encourage people to continue to live, to continue to persevere in prayer, and he was arrested. He was arrested, and he was sentenced to Auschwitz, the death camp. And he goes to Auschwitz, and guess what he had in Auschwitz? Joy. He had joy. How could he have joy when they took everything away from him? How could he have joy when he was being sentenced to this terrible life of labor and barely any food and like in the cold and like all the comfort of life was ripped away from him, and yet he had joy and he was singing and he encouraged those around? Why was he able to do that? Because Maximilian Kolbe was not the center of his universe. Jesus Christ was the center of his universe. He remained in his love. And so even though the Nazis took away everything, even though they arrested him and sent him away, they took away everything, they could not remove the center of his life. It was immobile. If he was the center of his life, he would be miserable and discouraged, and he would not have had a good time. He probably would have died. Instead, he knew he wasn't the center, so they couldn't take anything else away from him. They couldn't remove his center, so he had that joy. So much did Maximilian Kolbe know that he was not the center of his life, that his biography is actually called A Man for Others. And there was a moment where a man was arrested. Well, they were already in prison, or they were in Auschwitz. So a man was sentenced to death. And Maximilian Kolbe said, "Take me instead. I want to take his place. This man has a family, he has children, he has a life to come back to. I want to take his place." And so they allowed that. And he did. He died in the place of this man. Why was Maximilian Kolbe able to do that? Because he was living a life that was not for himself. The universe did not revolve around him. He was not the center. Jesus Christ was the center, and he knew that his life was made for others. And he lived his life that way. So this was a very easy decision for him, because he simply was being who he already knew he was. He was living from the true center of his life, and he knew that his life was made for others. And so, thank you, St. Maximilian Kolbe, for that example. What about us? What about us? Brothers and sisters, am I the center of my universe? Who do I spend time thinking about? Who do I think about most? Do I think most about myself, my needs, my problems, my worries, what I want to do, what I want to plan, my desires? Another sign, if I need another sign that I'm the center of my universe, think about the things that we really don't like to be taken away from us. Maybe there's something in my life that I'm like, I really love this thing, or I love to do this thing. It's an activity, an extracurricular, or it's whatever it is. And when I can't do it, I like have this interior tantrum, like a child comes out. That's a sign that there's a real different center of my universe, that I'm probably the center. If I have this tantrum, or if I feel very inconvenienced when someone changes plans and I can't do what it is that I wanted to do, when my schedule, my agenda, my things become way more important than the person in front of me, that's a sign that I'm the center of my universe. Who do I think about most? What do I think about most? Are my thoughts consumed with God, the center of my life, with the needs of others? Or am I thinking about myself all the time? Am I the center? And the second thing we ask ourselves is this: the way we change the center, if I'm the center of my life, if I'm the center of my universe, the cross is the way in which I reorder my life. Am I willing to deny myself for the sake of others? Am I willing to deny myself, to detach from those things that I know are taking me away from that selfless gift that I'm supposed to be making? Am I willing to sacrifice those things, to let go of them, to give them away, whatever it is, to detach from them, to go through the cross of denying myself so that I can be free, so that I can have the fullness of joy, so that I can stop grasping at these little comforts, these little distractions, these little moments of joy it's not even real joy. Am I willing to give those up for the fullness of joy, so that the joy of Jesus may be in me and my joy may be complete? The choice is yours, and I pray for each of us that we can make the choice to remove ourselves from the center of our life, to live a life with God at the center, and a life loving others. Because if we do that, we are truly free, we are fully alive, and the fullness of joy will be ours in this life and in the life to come. And that's a joy that the world cannot give and the world cannot take away. And it's worth even our entire life to find it.